This is actually something I've been thinking about starting for a long time, and I decided to just go ahead and dive in and see which direction it takes me. So if you are unfamiliar, here's a little bit about me. My name is Sarah. I am currently 35 years old. My husband and I have been married for a little over 11 years now. Both of us were born and raised in the Dallas, Texas area, but we moved to Georgia about 2.5 years ago for my husband's work, and that's pretty much where we have lived since then. I struggled with infertility because I have Pcos. I was actually diagnosed with Pcos at age 16, where basically all they did was put me on birth control and tell me absolutely nothing about what Pcos actually meant, or, that it would be a problem when I wanted to get pregnant or anything like that. So anyways, when it was actually time to try to get pregnant, I obviously was having issues because I was not having cycles. So we went to a fertility doctor. We did some rounds of fertility treatment. We did an IUI. I did acupuncture, which I found actually super helpful in regulating my cycles when nothing else really did. And then we did various fertility medications, injectables. We tried Clomid. Clomid didn't work. We did letrozole, and I had to be on estrogen, progesterone, just all kinds of stuff. I've been pregnant 6 times. I currently have 2 living children. I have a boy and I have a girl. I had 3 losses. The first loss was a chemical pregnancy. Then I had an early miscarriage that resulted from a round of fertility treatment. This is one that we actually never saw the heartbeat, and my HCG levels had started to go down. They were monitoring them, and then they actually started to go back up again. So I ended up having to get a shot of methotrexate in order to, complete that miscarriage. And then afterwards, my last loss was a 32-week stillbirth, and that was my daughter Jasmine. We actually lost her due to a congenital diaphragmatic hernia, or also known as CDH. And then she also had mosaic trisomy 15. And then right now, I'm actually currently 23 weeks pregnant with my so-called pot of gold baby. I also run a blog, and I have social media under the name Journey for Jasmine. I actually started this in honor of our daughter Jasmine, who we lost. And, I really wanted it as a way to help other lost families, and also a way to help Jasmine's legacy live on, help her name live on, and, help other people know that she was here. Obviously I won't ever forget that she was here, but it's just nice to see other people, acknowledging and recognizing her as well. And, one of the main reasons that I just have really wanted to help other lost families is because even if you're surrounded by, so many supportive people after your loss, going through loss just has a way of making you feel so incredibly lonely sometimes. You just feel like, you're the only one going through this, or that others haven't gone through this, and maybe you don't know anybody who has, or maybe you do know somebody, but you don't know that they've actually gone through the loss because they don't talk about it. I mean, I was incredibly lucky. Like I said, I had supportive family, I had supportive friends, but it just makes you feel lonely. And I just really wanted to help other families not ever feel that way. The families that maybe don't have as much support, or don't feel that they're able to talk about their loss, or, just don't feel supported and just feel alone. Those are the people that I really want to help. I also started Project Finding Your Rainbow. It's a traveling rainbow skirt that I actually first wore in my maternity pictures that I took with my rainbow daughter. And now the skirt travels from one lost family to the next. They take pictures with the skirt, and then the stories and the pictures are shared. So the purpose of creating this was to help, for 2 reasons. It's to help raise awareness for pregnancy and infant loss, and then also give families a chance to share their stories. I found from feedback from a lot of the participants that them participating, some of them, it's actually their first time ever telling the whole story. Sometimes they've told it before, but maybe they're sharing more information than they have in the past. And a lot of them just feel like it's so healing, even though it's a very emotional process to actually sit down and write it all out and, sometimes to take the pictures themselves, they found that it's actually very healing in sharing their story. And then right now, as of today, there's been 172 stories shared, and this has been in 41 different US states, and then in 3 other countries besides the United States. It's been to Canada, it's been to the UK, and it's also been to Australia. As I mentioned before, I wanted to start this podcast because I think the subject of pregnancy and infant loss in general is just a really important one to talk about. It happens to so many of us, yet so many of us feel we aren't allowed to talk about it for, a variety of reasons. It may be because it makes other people feel uncomfortable. For some people, we weren't considered far enough along for it to matter. If you had a miscarriage, people will tell you, oh, well, you weren't far enough along yet, so, at least you can try again, or things like that. And, there's just a lot of reasons why people make us feel that we aren't allowed to talk about it. But my opinion is that these are all our babies, no matter how far along you were. It's still your baby if you were 6 weeks, if you were 20 weeks, or even if you lost your baby after birth. It doesn't matter when you lost your baby, that was still your baby you lost. And it's more than just the baby we lost. We lost a whole lifetime of dreams and plans we had for that baby and for our family. It just, pregnancy loss just takes away so much from us that people just don't realize unless you have actually been through it yourself. And I just feel that we all deserve to be able to talk about our babies, and we deserve to be able to talk about all the issues surrounding loss in general. Because like I said, this affects so many of us, and sharing our stories, it helps us know that we're not alone, and it helps other people know that they're not alone too. So the purpose of this podcast will be to cover various topics as they relate to pregnancy and infant loss. So this can include things like how to deal with the grief and all of the emotions that come after loss, suggestions on how to get support after loss, resources for after loss, going through pregnancy after loss, having to parent after loss, because that certainly is a whole new ball game, ways to share our stories, how to connect with other lost families, really just anything and everything surrounding pregnancy and infant loss and all of the issues that it raises. So putting my story out there was actually incredibly scary at first. It just, sharing that information just has a way of making you feel very vulnerable. Sharing her story was scary. Sharing her picture was scary. I think that, Jasmine is absolutely beautiful, of course, but I was really scared of what other people would say. And so it took me a while to do it, but I found that I got really positive feedback and positive comments, and people seemed to appreciate when I shared my story, and when I didn't, when I didn't hold back from sharing even the ugly parts of the story. So I was, like I said, I was scared of what other people would say, and I was trying to protect her from the world, because that's what we do as moms. Even when they're not here with us, it's in our nature to always want to protect them, and we don't want people to say things about our babies or judge us for sharing about our babies or anything related to our babies. So I wanted to go ahead and start this first episode and start today by sharing more of my story about my loss and about Jasmine, so you can really know more about who I am and more about why I'm doing this. I've told Jasmine's story many times now, and every single time I still get emotional talking about her. She was actually going to be our rainbow baby after 2 early losses that I had, and we had just done a round of failed fertility treatment, and I happened to get pregnant with her the cycle right after this failed treatment. And in the beginning, everything was going well. We heard the heartbeat several times. We graduated from our reproductive endocrinologist and were just being seen by the regular OB. Then we were referred out to the MFM for our 13-week NT scan based on some things in the family history, and just because the OB office that I was currently going to didn't do the NT scans anymore. And it was at this appointment